Hello everyone, it is Allison here with another garden update. It's Thursday, July 16th, 2020, and it's been a couple weeks since the last update, so a lot has changed in the garden. We've had some great weather in the 70s and 80s, supposed to hit 90 this week, high 80s today, so there's a lot to see in the garden, and let's go check it out. So this first section is my little back garden that I've shown you a couple times. Not much happening here. I did try to sow some beets along here, but they got eaten by something when they came up. So no beets for me there. I am letting some volunteer zucchini come up. All the spinach has bolted. And then this kohlrabi is actually coming along pretty well, and then my volunteer potato. So I'm probably going to put in some chard starts from a friend right there, just because nothing's really coming up from seed, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a help. So next year I'll probably put garlic in this garden. It doesn't get a whole lot of sun once the trees leaf out, so the garlic will have enough time in the spring to get a good start. So that's my plan for this section. So I am loving this part of the garden. The squash and zucchini are exploding. There are lots of blossoms and we've got some fruit set. You can see this is a Desi Squash in there. So I'm hoping to harvest those in a few days. The cabbage aren't doing awesome in these pots, but I didn't really expect anything else. They're still getting little heads, so I'll get something from them. This is another Desi Squash. It's just huge. Like, the leaves are just gigantic. So I think this black plastic is really helping make these squash really big. So you can see one right in there. And then this is a lemon squash that I planted a little later. So that is starting to develop some blossoms. And then the okra is still alive, so gotta give it credit for that. That over there is my zucchini plant. I was getting a lot of only male flowers on it, but I think it was getting pollinated by these other two. I just won't save seeds from that, so it's fine for them to pollinate each other. This is one of my melons, and you'll see the other ones are not nearly this big, so the black plastic is really helping. Also, opposite problem is squash. This is only producing male flowers right now, so still waiting on the female flowers, but it is getting really huge, so that's great. And then my sunflower section is huge. Let me actually go over here and show you. It's just like so lovely. I love that these sunflowers just kind of came up on the edge of the garden. They just provide such a pretty, happy border. So here is my wall of peas. You can see it is to the top of the trellis. I have been harvesting these peas daily, and it's still setting off flowers. There are some signs that the peas are starting to die out at the bottom. You can see like a little bit of dried upness. It's going to be in the 90s next week, so maybe that will be enough to take the peas, but I have gotten so much off of them, and I'm actually pretty excited to free up these raspberries to be able to just kind of expand. The raspberries haven't flowered a whole lot. I think this middle variety has a couple of berries on it, but that's pretty much all I see. So this is the second year for these raspberries, so I'm expecting lots of good harvests in many years to come. Garlic is starting to die off, so I will hopefully harvest that in the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited to focused on some more succession planting this year. So I started some bok choy from seed that I'm going to put right here, since I have my hoop house system kind of dialed. That will go there, and then I can grow those through the fall. Ground cherries, I've started harvesting the ground cherries. These are gigantic since the last time I showed you, which is really, really fun. They are, yeah, you know, this one just kind of came off. That's kind of how I've been harvesting them, is they'll just like come off, and then you either pick them up from the ground or you just grab them. So I'll just leave that one there and grab it later. It sounds like the train has decided to join us as usual. The ground cherries are kind of crowding out these peppers, which is fine. I'm just kind of letting them coexist. And then you can see my blackcurrant tomatoes have some fruit on them, and they are reaching toward the top of the trellis. And then my purple Russians here. Oh my gosh, we always get a plane and a train at the same time. So moving on after all the automobile and train noise. These are the purple Russians. Again, these are some of the saddest looking tomatoes, but you can see huge, grown to the top of the trellis. And the fruits, this is a paste tomato, so they're looking good. Yeah, so I have some peppers there that I will probably harvest pretty soon. Another ground cherry here, and then our last ground cherry here. And in between are these monster sunflowers, all volunteers, all huge. This one is gigantic. I can't even like touch the top. Kind of just goes to show how hardy volunteers can be. And then here's my little leek flower experiment. This one overwintered. I'm just kind of letting it do its thing because I've never seen a leek flower before. Eggplant flower back there, got a little blossom on it. And then more garlic. This is where my cherry tomatoes start. This is a yellow pear that I think will be one of the first to ripen, along with this chocolate pear here. And then I harvested most of the carrots, and then sowed some Chinese amaranth spinach here for kind of another succession plant. So hopefully that'll come up soon. Been loving these shishito peppers. Been harvesting them just kind of as I want to eat them, which has been lovely. Now this is another melon that I planted at the same time as that huge one. You can see how much smaller it is. And I heard that sometimes stressed plants blossom more. So that would kind of be consistent with this plant because it has a lot more blossoms. But it's just not as warm here. And then this is kind of middle ground where this one's closer to the house. So it's a little warmer, and it's doing better, but not as good as the one under black plastic. So that back there is Malabar spinach that I planted like 3 weeks ago, and it has been like that. So we'll see if it ever gets any bigger. So more eggplant here with some blossoms. I've never grown eggplant before, and these blossoms are beautiful. So that's pretty cool. My red sales lettuce is still holding strong. I feel like I can feel that it's starting to bolt, but maybe I'm just being paranoid. But yeah, middle of July, still have lettuce, so that's pretty cool. These cayenne peppers are doing okay. They, I think they're just kind of struggling with light, with having all these greens around them. And that's kind of, I knew that was coming. I really like to plant high density. So, yeah, hopefully I can kind of control that eagerness next year. More tomatoes in the back here. This is, either chocolate or yellow pear. And then over there is a Brad's Atomic Grape that I let go to 3 stems. So it's kind of taking over there, which is kind of fun to see. More kale. The New Zealand spinach is loving life, so that's good. And then again, peppers that don't have quite enough light. But I think I'm going to do peppers in pots pretty much from now on because it just doesn't get warm enough here quite fast enough for them to like it in the garden until about July. So here are my Brad's Atomic Grape tomatoes. Because they have these anthocyanins in them, they look like they're blushing, but it's really, from what I've heard, it's just because they're exposed to the sun. Like, they're still totally rock hard. So they look like they're ripening, but they're actually still just in the growing phase, I think. So, another pear tomato, lots of blossoms. We're gonna have lots of cherry tomatoes, which I am psyched about. Napa Chardonnay. There's the fruits in there. So again, that goes kind of all the way out that branch, which is pretty cool. Here is my last melon and my currants. I've been harvesting these. You can see I've harvested almost all of them. There were a lot of berries. I would say I got like 2 cups of berries off this plant, maybe more. And we've been flavoring kombucha with them. We've been eating them in smoothies or with cottage cheese or yogurt. So that's been delicious. And then another tomato plant. These are getting pretty tall. And then my black currant. I have harvested some of these. There's not a whole lot of fruit on this plant this year. And then I think I've shown these beans. A couple of the bean plants made it and are starting to climb the trellis, which is cool. Again, wasn't really focusing on beans, so I'm psyched to have anything. And then the rhubarb. My bare root rhubarb kind of bit the dust, but we'll see if it comes back next year. And then the strawberries are kind of exploding. I didn't have a whole lot of fruit on these, but they're putting off a bunch of runners, which I know people usually will cut off because they don't want the plant to focus on making runners, but I am just kind of letting them go, and then I'll transplant them instead of buying more strawberry plants. So I'm hoping to put them over here in this bed and then have lots of strawberries next year. This potted tomato is not doing as well as the tomatoes in the beds, but that's okay. It's still putting on some fruit. And then we have our chives, which are kind of on their way out. The echinacea has lots of blossom heads, including this bloom, which is gorgeous. And then, see, this pepper is just doing way better than the ones in the beds. So that's kind of my lesson there this year. And then this mint is doing great. I'm gonna put this in the ground in the back at the end of the year because I don't care about it spreading out back there. And then lastly, we have the nasturtiums, which are blooming beautifully. I just love growing nasturtiums. And then basil behind it, and the rest of our potted plants with some flowers coming up and some catnip.